time aboard. This is the Miles to Go podcast. And now here's your host, Ed Pizza.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Miles to Go podcast. Mr. Kerr and I are burning the candle at three ends at the moment, both on relaxing layovers before we hop on our next plane. Flighty was nice enough to inform me that I have a 4-hour and 27-minute relaxed layover at Dulles on my way back from Japan, headed out for another trip this evening. And Mr. Kerr is feverishly asking me to push the record button so he can go finish doing laundry to repack his suitcase and get out of town.
Happy Easter, Mr. Pizzarello here at recording. I woke up at 5:30 this morning at Pop Century and flew home on not having a lot of luck at Orlando this year for me. Quite a few delays both times on Delta. They couldn't get the bags loaded this morning, so we were about an hour late. And I was sitting in row 42 in the back of that 757 and watching the guys stop loading the bags, not move, chilling, shooting the breeze. Maintenance guy showed up with a flashlight, dorked around. I was like, we should not be worried about this kind of stuff, but here we are. So I looked, man, I got 10 Delta delayed flights in the last couple months looking at my flight stats. So not the year I was hoping for here with the boys in red, white, and blue. So hoping for a little bit of a turnaround here as we get into the spring.
I was trying to pull up while you and I are talking, and I love having eye contact with you and all that, but I'm looking here to see Orlando. So I know which flight you were on because I can see it was delayed. I'm curious when I look at this if I can go back in flight history, or maybe you can look and see how old is that 757.
Oh, it's from 1991.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. There.
Something apparently broke in the baggage handler thing because the guys were all chilling with their feet up on the little ramp up to the thing, not loading any bags. And the guy in the yellow maintenance vest showed up and went up, and we couldn't load bags. And I don't know, it's kind of a weird flight, man, because then Thomas was in the back lab. Again, we were in row 42, so he's 2 rows back in the lab. And I look back, and he's still standing there because I'm like, where's Thomas? After longer than it should have been. He's standing back there, and a guy has just collapsed in the back galley ended up being okay, some kind of dehydration or something. And Thomas is looking at me like, Dad. I was like, uh-oh. So just a weird short hop this morning, but we had a great time down there at the Mouse for a few days, much needed days off. I got a nap every single day, man. We were not pushing it hard at all. I had just like my flight, he thought I was on a 12-hour layover in New York City, but no, in fact, I flew up there very late, slept very little, had meetings, flew to Orlando, and I just needed a few days, man, to catch my breath. And it didn't do that. And I think now we both are here about ready to head out again.
Yeah, no, I have one day this week where I am not on a plane. So that's my that's the week ahead. And we'll talk a little bit about the stats. A little bit of housekeeping. If you want to text us or leave us a voicemail, 571-293-6659. He's at Kerr Points on all those social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. TikTok still exists, so we are the Miles to Go podcast on TikTok and Instagram. And you can email questions at ed@pizzainmotion.com. And Mr. Kerr, the fans love us. They do. Well, they really do. And so
they love us.
Every once in a while, we get a 5-star review from KOI Caps. I've been listening regularly for several months and love all the great information surrounding points and miles. The banter between Ed and Richard makes for a fun and easy to listen podcast. Mr. Kerr, I enjoy our banter, and I thank this listener for their 5-star review.
Yeah, well, you're like the 1991 757 of this relationship, and I'm like Riata Air's brand new 787-9. If you guys saw that news, looks like some pretty fancy MyBox suites they got there.
Nice. Those are nice.
But it is really easy to pick on a 1991 birthday 757 that's a little long in the tooth, as I called it in my Instagram stories.
But it gets it done.
But it gets it done eventually. We get it done.
Well, and as I shot that text to you earlier about an Instagram story I saw, you and Howie, new study finds that friends who often playfully insult each other are 300% more honest and loyal. So I just want you to know, Mr. Kerr, I am 300% more honest and loyal to you than something. I don't know what the something is.
I would love to know how they measured that. It's not 298%, not 302, not 127, but 300% more loyal and honest. Here we are.
Yeah. So we got a few things we want to cover. We want to talk about a new Frontier status match offer. It's pretty awesome out there. Some math on upgrades that our buddy Gary from View from the Wing has covered. And then the flip side of the coin on the diversion that you had flying to Atlanta the other night is some people that ran into some pretty tough luck. But I want to talk a little bit about our Japan trip. I want to do the whole thing in one episode. I got some video that we want to load up and stuff. Suffice to say, way ahead of pace on travel this year. I pulled up my flighty stats for 2024. I had 136,000 flown miles, and as of landing at Dulles today, 62,000 miles in
Too many.
April. Have requalified for Hyatt Globalist at this point in April, the earliest I've ever done that, and flying all week. So definitely worn down a bit, but
Yeah. I think the last 3 years we both said we're never traveling this much, and here we are.
Never.
Dude,
Yep.
I've been home. I was just like, I'm gonna be home tonight. I was home one night last week. I mean, like maybe 4 nights I'll be home over this calendar month, over the last 4 weeks. Like nuts, man.
Yeah, I haven't done the whole month, but I have 18. It'll be 18 days in between the last time I slept in my own bed and the next time I sleep in my own bed, which is not tonight or tomorrow or any of the other times this week. But I got the chance to try 3 interesting products that I haven't tried, and I think they were all in their own little individual way really good values for points and miles. And you talk about, all the good opportunities are gone. But these were all really solid each individually. I'll cover the numbers on them real quickly, and then happy to answer any questions that you have about them, because a couple of them are things I don't think you've flown yet. So for my first flight on an A350, that was our Delta flight from Seattle to Taipei. These were the newer suites, but not the newest suites they have. It was one of the older A350s that they had, but still a nicer seat. We spent a combination of either 57,000 miles or about $700 for tickets in premium economy. And then I was able to get global upgrade certificates to clear on all of those. So effectively, I think just an incredible value for a one-way flight to Asia. Call it roughly 60,000 miles worth of points or cash equivalent to fly business class on the A350. And I say high level. I mean, the food was okay. I wouldn't necessarily call it great. It was interesting in that we were in the middle 2 seats. My wife had somebody from a service standpoint who was probably one of the best service employees I've seen on a plane in a long time. And the person on my side probably should not work for Delta. So it was definitely a mixed bag there. The other thing I found odd, the seat was not comfortable to sleep in. It was not, this was not coffin class, so certainly a lot more space. But my wife said the same thing when we woke up. Really hard seat, really not very comfortable. And oddly, the seat belts were short enough that you couldn't really, if you rolled on your side, it was sort of like strapping you down. So
for you guys, well, I got no shot.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel bad for anybody bigger than me. So
which is the vast majority of the population. So
bad. So overall, it certainly felt like a 787 in terms of I felt relaxed and refreshed getting off the plane. Didn't love the seat. Anything that lies flat for 60,000 points is absolutely a screaming value, but I wouldn't say that I felt like it was significantly better than the coffin class seats that we had when we flew Tokyo to Haneda.
Despite being an Atlanta resident and seeing these things take off and land every single day, I still have never flown the Delta Suites products because it's just completely inaccessible here in Atlanta unless you want to use 400,000 sky miles one way. And I just am never going to do that. So maybe one day one of those seats will be open via a partner program. Few and far between these days. I can't even remember the last time I saw it for on Virgin points or, Flying Blue miles to get a Delta One product in or out of Atlanta. So maybe one day, but man, still never flown it. People are always shocked to hear about that. But I think we all know it's just expensive.
Out of Atlanta for sure. We were lucky the Seattle Taipei flight had tons of availability in both directions. We ended up not using that flight for the flight back, but it does seem like there's a lot of availability on that route. I think if folks are looking to get to Asia, that can be a great way to get there. We're going to talk about our stepping stone from Taipei to our ultimate destination, Tokyo, in a second, but I'll cover our return flight real quick. We were on Japan Airlines 7879. They have 2 versions of their business class product. I guess, they have more than 2 because the second newest version, there's 2 or 3 different variants, but 2 basic seats. This is the one, you might have flown this, where you have 2 seats on the window side, 2 seats in the middle, and 2 seats on the far right. And everyone has direct aisle access, but if you have the actual window seat, you sort of have narrow little right-hand turn passageway from the left-hand side of the plane to get out of your seat. But once the divider is up, felt very private.
I love Japanese service. Some people don't love it because it's just a little bit too impersonal. But I love it, man. How was everything for you guys on that flight?
Service was incredible, as what I would expect. I chose not to eat the meal service because I was trying to get back on. Like I've got morning meetings all week, so I'm like, look, I just need to. It's only an 8-hour flight from Narita to Vancouver. I need to like get as much sleep as possible, but also regulate my body clock. And so when I woke up, I mean, 45 seconds after I popped my head up, they're like, "You missed the meal. And what can we get you? Can I get you a drink? Can I get you a cheese platter? Can I get you noodle?" Like they were doing everything they could to make me happy. So
I
service was
miss it
service
so
as
much.
expected.
I
Yeah.
love it so much, man. There's no way I'm turning down the noodles on Japan Airlines. It's just going to happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, like we got on and we were traveling with some friends, and so I was trying to take a selfie, and crew member rushed over real quick. Can I take pictures for you? Like everything you said about service, unbelievable. The seats themselves, I found they were more comfortable than the Delta A350 seat. Plus, they had decent cushions that you could grab from the overhead bin.
Mhm.
I'm sure they would have made my seat for me, as
Oh, yeah.
has been the case on every Asian flight. I grabbed the cushion real quick and laid the seat out flat, and the I don't know if she was the purser. She looked like one of the senior flight attendants on the flight. She had a look somewhere between mortified and puzzled as to why I was making my own seat. But then I'm like, I'm gonna skip dinner and go to sleep, and she felt a little bit better. But I slept great, man. Like my wife woke me up 30 minutes before landing, and it was by far the best sleep I got. That flight again, what I think another great value, Alaska Airlines miles. My first Alaska mileage plan redemption, 60,000 miles one way, Narita to Vancouver. Was able to get 5 seats at that price.
What was the WAQ on that?
Ooh, I'll look at it while we're talking, but it wasn't much, 100 and change.
Okay.
I mean, it was pretty reasonable.
And then you did Vancouver to Denver, Denver to Dulles.
Those I did as United segments tacked on, and I couldn't get that piece of it worked. No matter where I went, we have our friend May, who's a Slack community member. She's sort of stuck over there. Like almost every flight's full. She's got a premium economy seat on the way back. It's so unbelievably busy right now. On top of everything that's going on in Japan, you've also got. We were there for the Star Wars celebration, which was just a mob of people. So it's pretty. Every flight is full, and so they're just. I couldn't find an option to the East Coast. I mean, some of the rates I was seeing, man, it was crazy. 500,000 miles one way. I mean, just exorbitant rates.
Yeah, certainly tough to get Japan and back with everything I've looked at.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I was wrong.
It was the old Starlux is what you did.
I did do Starlux. And so, man, I got to tell you, so I've never flown Starlux before. This was my first. And I was looking at them. I wish I'd started looking earlier because I would love to have tried the business class product. But I started looking at them early on in the process to fly. Well, not early for me in the process to fly from Taipei to Tokyo. Call it a 3.5-4 hour flight. Figured it would be a good way to get there would be to try and fly Starlux. And by the way, the YQ was $120 total per ticket.
Nice.
So we ended up flying Starlux in an economy class, 10,000 Alaska miles per seat. I gotta tell you, man. Well, first off, take a step back. Have you flown Starlux?
Have not. Nope. Have not done it.
So crew is exactly what you'd think of on a Japanese airline. High touch service. To be clear, not a Japanese airline. They're Taiwanese.
Mm-hmm.
Service element was incredible, and they had a bit of Lufthansa mixed into them. In that, over the course of a 3.5 hour flight, they served a full meal, and I lost count of the number of drink services. Tremendously efficient. The meal was good. It wasn't a huge portion, but I had a roasted chicken thigh with some edamame and some rice and some vegetables that my wife ate.
And you didn't eat those.
No. She took those quickly. I had a beautiful quality screen in front of me that was not even like inset. It was the full seat back. We got a pillow and a small amenity kit. Like this is a 3.5 hour economy class flight for 10,000 miles one way. Again, service element off the charts. So I would absolutely fly them again. Would love to try their premium economy or their business class products for sure. But absolutely loved and my wife said the same thing. Just like you'd expect on a Japanese plane. Spotless bathrooms. Everything smelled great. Nothing was broken. It was a very different experience from your typical the lock mechanism that broke off in my hand on my United flight today.
Yeah, it can happen. So My one question for you here is we got a lot of separate tickets. So how long
Mhm.
was your layover in Taipei, and then how long in Vancouver for you to feel confident in booking these on separate tickets?
Well, so yeah, on the Taipei thing, we actually we took a day in Taipei, which you and I'll talk about next week, and loved it. That was perfect. I don't know that I would have done it any other way. Plus, the Delta flight to Taipei lands late enough in the evening that it'd be really hard to catch the last flight
Yeah.
to Tokyo that night. On the backside, coming home, I actually talked with a friend of mine who lives in Seattle and connects through Vancouver quite a bit, and he recommended against the 100-minute connection in Vancouver that we had available to us, and we were going to have a check bag. Ultimately, turns out we would have made it, but I'm sure I would have been sweating it the whole time. It would have been we probably would have 85 minutes. We could have done it in, but we landed almost 30 minutes early. Et cetera, et cetera.
The whole
So
8-hour flight, you were just been worried about making the connection.
100%. Yeah. So we took the 4-hour connection, which ultimately, like, the downside to that was, getting back to the East Coast, we couldn't get back yesterday. We ultimately had to fly that last leg home today. But I mean, these are the compromises. Like, we got dirt cheap flights to Asia, and we ended up having a not fun layover on the way back, sleeping at Denver International Airport overnight at the Westin.
Famous for some pilot shenanigans there at the Westin Denver Airport. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google that, and you're welcome.
All right, so here's my question for you, and I think we could talk more in detail about this stuff next week and get into some of the other details of the trip. But Alaska Airlines mileage plan, 60,000 miles, Narita to Vancouver. Delta, call it 57.5, 60,000-ish, one-way Seattle to Taipei. Or Starlux, 10,000 miles, economy, Taipei to Narita. Which of those three do you think is the best deal?
Well, I think Taipei to Narita on a Starlux for 10,000 is the best deal there. 3.5 hours,
I think so too.
And yeah, that's great. Just man, I would just talked about it a million times, but I miss living over there. It's so fun to travel the world and so easy on points and miles if you're not based in the U.S.
Yeah,
I miss it all the time. So it sounds great. I can't wait to fly Starlux one day soon.
yeah. Now I'm sitting here like I got to start stalking Starlux flights, and I kind of don't even care where I end up. I just feel like get me to Taipei and I'll figure it out from there. But you find me saver inventory, and I'm going. I'm going to put a whole bunch of searches in place on my flight tonight because Kat and I are supposed to do a dad-daughter trip somewhere, and Asia's on her list. We talked about it in the show a few weeks ago. So if something pops up to Taipei, then we'll hop over to Laos or Cambodia or Bangkok or something from there. Because I'd love to try that business class product. I mean, I don't get excited much about business class products anymore. I know it's heresy in the points and miles world. If the seat lies flat and I can sleep, like that's great. But I'm actually excited to try the Starlux product just because everything was so great in economy class.
I got to go to Paris and London for work here in May, and I was looking at my book, and my flight says we solidified the schedule up. And I was thinking about to February and where I was mentally, where I was like, all right, I'm going to do this to fly Lufthansa first back. That means I got to fly to, like New York or Chicago. And then I get back to Atlanta. You know what I did, man? I booked the nonstop Atlanta to Paris, and I booked the nonstop London to Atlanta. I don't care.
Yep.
I just want to go. I just want to come home. I don't.
Yes. Yep.
That's where I'm at mentally right now. I'm just tired. I just want to one shot and let's get home. Let's get where I'm going. So
yeah.
Sorry to all the listeners who are like, oh, what? I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm just, I want to get there and I want to get there and I want to get home. That's it.
Yes. Yep. I agree. All right. So let's jump into our topics. We got a Slack question and then a couple topics we want to cover. And, as far as the Slack question is concerned, just a quick reminder for folks, if you want to support the show, help us produce the video and all the fun stuff that we do here. Obviously, none of that comes cheap. And Jeremiah is a great producer for us who works his butt off. We got some social folks, Auburn and her team in the background as well. We spend a few bucks a month, support us. We've got didn't have a happy hour last week while I was in Japan, hoping to have one this week, but happy hours almost every week on Zoom. We have the occasional meetup. We're having one actually at the Freddie Awards coming up next week. And then we're working on planning one for Las Vegas a little bit later in the year. And just a thanks to, we talked a little bit about this last week, to some longtime members, but May, who's been around since the very beginning, Susan, Dan R., Molly, these guys have been supporters of the show for a couple of years now. And Matt, who's a member of the Slack community, had a great question, which, Richard, you've been to Barcelona more recently than I have, but I think we both have a good perspective on this one. His question, it pertains to Barcelona for sure, but also to a number of European and or popular international destinations. It's the, what do you spend to be in the thick of it? And so his question is, would you do the Hyatt Regency Barcelona Tower, which is about 35 minutes from the city center, costs about 21,000 points a night for a 2-room setup for the family, 42,000 points total, or go with a well-reviewed Airbnb apartment in the city center for $600 for 2 nights total and has 2 bedrooms. So, what's your opinion on Matt's question?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people stay at that Hyatt and had great things to say.
Mhm.
We had, I think, 2 or 3 nights before a cruise last year, and to me, if you're going for that short of a time, you just got to be in the middle of it. You got to stay downtown, got to stay in the city center. There's a lot of different options down there. You don't have to just look Hyatt. We stayed in a small luxury hotel, which at the time was Hyatt, is now Hilton.
Yeah.
It was right on Las Ramblas and was an amazing place to stay. But also, don't forget about Marriott Homes and Villas, which is actually a pretty decent deal there in Europe, where you can find a place like an Airbnb. But my problem with Airbnb is that there's just no service recovery. If things go wrong, you're kind of stuck in limbo. So while I have heard great things about that Barcelona Tower, it is too far outside of the city center for me for just a 2-night stay. I'm going to be in the thick of it, as close to the city center as possible. And again, probably see if, hey, can I book that same SLH property with Hilton points now? If so, it's great. I cannot remember the name of it right there on Las Ramblas. It was amazing. Or I'm going to look at Marriott Homes and Villas or some other chain that's going to keep me right in the city center for such a short stay. Going, over an hour of transit round trip to your hotel room back is just not something that I personally am going to do for a short stay.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Obviously, I'm a Hyatt guy, but for Barcelona specifically, and if you're only talking 2 nights, it's tough. I mean, they have a good train system, and it's not that you can't get in and out of town. It's just, I think there's so much to a town like Barcelona that's just being right there. I think is a big part of it. I was trying to look while you and I were talking because when we were there, which was a number of years ago, it's been a long time since I've been to Barcelona, probably a decade almost at this point. We stayed at a Le Meridien, which was near the top of Las Ramblas on one of the side roads. And it didn't pull up when I just pulled up Google Maps. There's a number of hotels that are all within spitting distance of Las Ramblas. And you've got, there's either 1 or 2 Westins, or maybe a Westin and something else, a W, that are down by the water.
There's a W right on the water, at the cruise port,
So it does look like there still is a Le Meridien in Barcelona. I'm looking to see where this is geographically.
And the place I stayed, that's it, Hotel Bagues, Bagues, was amazing. We got 2 rooms there. It was a great deal. So rooftop pool, all kinds of cool stuff, and you can just walk out and see the city. So I highly recommend that spot.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this Le Meridien. It looks to be. I can't tell if it's the same location or not. Yeah, I can't tell. At any rate, I think I would go with what you said. I would absolutely consider just staying downtown here. I would encourage Matt to look for a chain property if you could. Yeah, this one is on Barcelona. It's the same one I remember. So that's, it's a Marriott in a major tourist areas. I would imagine it's a whole lot of points per night. Maybe not budget friendly, but I struggle with the service recovery and Airbnb just like you do. So I think it might be an easy question to answer in some regards, but I think the tougher part to answer on this one is would you go Airbnb or not in downtown? I think what I would say is my perfect choice would be to find a branded property and stay there. And I ran a 3-night stay at 242,000 points, at like 80,000 points a night. That's not horrible. If you get the Meridian for 80,000 Marriott points, I'd do that.
Good luck whichever way you go. Lovely city to go and visit.
All right, Mr. Kerr. Well, it's time to enter a new chapter of Frontier Tales because, baby, you are back.
Back and so excited about it. Frontier came out with a status match, if you want to call it that, even though not matching to anything. As long as you are a Southwest Rapid Rewards member before April 16th, you could apply for a $40 status match to Frontier Gold, which I absolutely did because the family actually just flew Frontier down to meet me in Orlando this week. And I was just feeling sad that we didn't have any status there, but I found a pretty cheap business, what they call biz fare, which kind of
Yep.
included everything. Actually booked it via the Bilt travel portal and used my Bilt points at 1.25 cents each to subsidize that. But they came out with the Elite Gold. Two main things that I really care about here for gold. Number one, carry-on included when booking the cheapest fare. Huge
Yep.
for Frontier.
Yep.
Because now you don't have to check a bag, but you don't have to travel with just a personal item. And then second is the selecting a seat at booking. Now, it's not front of the plane seat, even though you can be upgraded to that. I think
4 hours.
4
prior.
hours before departure, you can get that up front. Plus, or you can get a premium seat at check-in if it's available, but you can pick any open seat that's not premium or up front when you book. So if I know which seat I'm getting and I get a carry-on, then what else do I need for Frontier? I'm good to go. And I'm back, baby. So I couldn't hand them that $40 fast enough status good until December 31st of this year. And like, look, man, I got all my short easy hops back to MCO down for the year. So excited about this. Glad they came out with it. Look, family had a great flight down just a few days ago on Frontier. All of my Frontier flights this year to Orlando or the families have been on time. Cannot say that for, again, the guys in red, white, and blue this year, including this morning, another delay. So excited to be back with the folks at Frontier and look forward to some flights this year.
Yeah, and I think one of the differences with the way the status has sort of evolved at Frontier is this new Elite Gold status level. The benefits I don't think extend to the entire family. So did you get Elite Gold for Emily?
I did not, but I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, it's not a horrible idea based on how many times you guys travel separately to meet up.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I can already think off the top of my head, like I'm going to make 2 hops to Tampa this year for things. One, I'm going to make at least 2 to Orlando. So like $40 to get all that, like no brainer, got it done. So
yeah,
how many times will Mrs. Kirby on that with me? That's a good one. Good thing to ask, and maybe I should sign her up for it.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Well, the veteran podcaster that you are, I want to thank you for that subtle little transition that you folded in there, that you booked your Frontier flights via the Bilt travel portal, because I wanted to talk a little bit about the news that Bilt announced, and we talked a little bit about this in pre-show, that I sort of felt like it was almost underplayed by some of my fellow travel bloggers. I know we have a little bit of Bilt bias here on the show. I really love the program, and last time I checked, you still work for them. But I'm excited about this news, and why don't you tee up what you guys rolled out, and then I'll give you my 2 cents.
Yeah, so since program inception with Bilt, you've always been able to pay your landlord with what we call a third-party card, not the Bilt MasterCard. Now, if you do that, you're going to have to pay a 3% fee, because the secret sauce of the Bilt MasterCard is that there's no fee, and you would have gotten whatever rewards your card earned, plus the flat 250 Bilt points. Well, last week we rolled out rather quickly that you're going to get full 1x Bilt points on your rent, as long as you're paying with a Visa, MasterCard, or Discover. If you're paying with an Amex card, then you're going to get 1 point for every $2 of rent, in addition to whatever rewards that card earns. So let's say you have the Citi Double Cash card, pay your rent, get 2% back, plus you're going to get your 1x Bilt points, all for the 3% fee. And some people would say that you're going to be winning there. Now, this applies to anybody who lives in the Bilt network. So if you live in one of our apartment buildings, or if you pay rent to any landlord that you pay via an ACH portal. Again, the way it works is we take your Bilt Rent Rewards rent account, and we take whatever card you want to use, turn it into a routing and account number. You put that routing and account number in your landlord's portal. They charge it. They're none the wiser. They think you're paying via checking account. They don't have to be a part of the Bilt network. They don't have to know anything about Bilt. You're paying via checking, and we'll apply that rent payment to your third-party card. So, a lot of people say, hey, if you're working on a sign-up bonus now, if you're going to get, your card's rewards plus a full 1x Bilt points, that's a no-brainer for the 3% fee. But Ed, you had some more thoughts about that.
Yeah, and I don't think, to be clear, anybody who brought up sign-up bonuses, I think that's absolutely a very valid point about how to hit the, how to hit a sign-up bonus using, pay with rent, how you could offset that 3% fee. Like, I think those are all very valid paths. I just tend to think that, this world of people who sign up for credit cards, multiple times a year is a very small one. And I love all those people. Don't get me wrong. But I think the typical person, if they're signing up for a new card, is likely moving everything from the old card to the new card. Maybe they've got 2 cards, but I think more of like Jane and Joe Public are those 1 or 2 credit card sort of people. And I really see this as an opportunity to make sure that you can hit top tier Bilt status, because to the point that a lot of the folks in the articles make, typically speaking, you're not going to get 3% worth of value out of charging rent in terms of, the median value of a point or a mile isn't the same as, the 3% fee. So you're quote unquote potentially losing some ground there. Now, if you're redeeming for business class flights like I did using Alaska Mileage Plan, Narita to Vancouver, you could certainly get a lot more than that. Just saying, like, the median person isn't necessarily getting that. But I think when I think about the value of the Bilt program, the thing for me, the reason why I stay engaged in the program is the home run potential. Hey, what's Richard cooking up for the next transfer bonus? And those transfer bonuses far exceed anything anybody else is doing. And so from that standpoint, what I've heard a lot of people say is, oh gosh, it's hard to hit the new format for Bilt Platinum status because in essence, you have to have $50,000 worth of credit card spend either on the Bilt MasterCard or with a combination of partners like Lyft or Walgreens, or you have to assemble, and I might get this wrong, 200,000 points, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earn points.
So using one of those paths, it can be difficult, but depending on what your rent is, and gosh knows, rent is high enough in the U.S. nowadays. If you were putting your rent on this card and it got you to the point that you could earn a transfer bonus that was double the size of the one that you were getting based on whatever your Bilt status was before, if you were Bilt Gold and you moved up to Bilt Platinum, let's say, well, the way I see that is you now just have the fee that you paid because you doubled the amount of miles you got with that transfer bonus, and potentially any other points that you earn via Bilt, Lyft, Walgreens, or spend in the ecosystem, dining, stuff like that. All those points are now worth more too, and so that I just look at it as a way to maintain that status. My free helicopter ride that I got to take in New York earlier this year, like, you guys do a lot of things that make the status valuable for me to have. And if you're making it easier for me to hit the spend levels, well, gosh, I mean, even if there's a fee there, I think the value in having platinum status can offset a decent chunk of that.
This is a large argument that it's not even an argument. It's something I've tried to help people realize when they go, yeah, I got a Bilt card because it's only 1x on everything. And I'm like, well, we have a transfer bonus now almost every single month. So your opportunity to make it more than 1x on everything has been there routinely, despite what everybody says is going to go away. It's not going away. You heard it from me here. It's not going away. It hasn't gone away. I think almost every single month this year we've had a transfer bonus, and there's certainly more things coming. And I'll also tell you that at least status is just going to get more valuable. We have a lot of things coming to Bilt Travel specifically that are going to make it even more valuable. So I just really wish people would remember that. And I know it's really hard to speculate. Yeah, well, it's a transfer bonus only to one partner at a time. Great. Then you got time to save up until you get the partner that you want to use.
You're right. Yeah.
But I'm certainly going to use some of the ones that we have coming up. That's for absolutely sure. So look, we're excited about it. It's super rewarding. We hope it makes a lot of people think a lot harder about, hey, do I want to use this? A couple other notes are, if you pay by check today, remember you have to be a Bilt MasterCard holder to do that. Nothing changes there. You still cannot pay via check with a third-party card, so that stays the same. And kind of the same with whether you pay with Venmo or PayPal or apartments.com, all that stays the same as well. And you can still use this as long as you're paying via an ACH portal. So people are like, well, why are you doing this? We can go through a whole lot of reasons, but we have constantly told the story that we are just going to make things more rewarding for people if you engage in our ecosystem. And this is another hook to get you to engage in the ecosystem. And to Ed's point, hope you to reach status, which has pretty cool things today. We'll have some pretty cool things coming in the next couple of months, if not even sooner. So we're excited about it. We hope people see the value in it. And there are certainly some cards out there that can help you get ahead. All Bilt payments will code as rent. That is the MCC we use. So I see a lot of, I go and read the forums and the comment threads. People are like, Bilt rent's coding is travel for the Bank of America premium. Like, no, it's not, guys. Like, it's not. I promise you right now. I know the MCC we're using, it codes as rent for everybody. There's no multipliers, fortunately or unfortunately for you, that's going to fall under unless you just have a car that earns more than 1% flat cash back on everything. So excited for the next iteration of this. And look, there's so much going on at Bilt all the time. There's going to be a lot more coming this year. So stay tuned. And if you've just not downloaded the app and created a free account, it's free. Like, just go ahead and link your cards. Yeah. You're going to accidentally shop somewhere in our network. You might as well double dip, link whatever debit or credit card you have to your Bilt wallet and engage with us.
And me being the shameless shill that I am, you can accidentally click on my referral link in the show notes if you want to sign up for the Bilt program.
Do that.
It's from a status standpoint. Like I said, I really do value my Bilt Platinum status, I look, probably at least once a month, if not even more frequently. Am I on pace to spend enough? Via all the different ways in the ecosystem. It's certainly gotten easier to do that. I'm ahead of pace right now for this year, and due in big part to the Lyft and the Walgreens stuff. And I'm looking forward to another year of platinum. So
I have to earn it. All Bilt employees got to earn our own platinum status as well. So there's no platinum status is expensive. So there's a lot of people that work at Bilt now, and we're certainly, unfortunately, cannot just give everybody that for free. So I do the same thing and make sure that I'm on pace to hit it.
All right, so hopefully I have time for both the remaining articles. I at least want to make sure we cover this article that Gary wrote about first class flights, because I think it brings up an interesting discussion point that it maybe won't appeal to everybody listening, but I think this is the way that I've started to think about first class upgrades. I've thought about it for a while. Gary lays out this hypothesis that first class upgrades are very hard to come upon from a complimentary standpoint nowadays. He's absolutely right. I mean, I think, could that get easier over the next 6 months? I'm certainly seeing some empty flights here and there. Our flight from Vancouver to Denver was a ghost town. Our flight Denver to Dulles this morning was not full. Just seeing some things around the edges, some softening. But what he hypothesizes is like, well, what's the hourly rate that you would pay for a first class upgrade? And his number right now is $70 an hour. And I thought about this for a bit, because I know you and I have talked about this. For the longest time, it was a no-brainer at $50 an hour that I would pay an upgrade. And what we mean by that is, for every hour of flying, would you pay an extra $50 in fare? So if you got a 4-hour flight, would you pay $200 to be in first class? And certainly depends on what seat you're in and coach. On American, what I'm finding, having flying them more this year, they just have fewer extra legroom seats than United does. It just is what it is. And the way you and I book, close in, I just have less shot of getting one of those seats. But they also tend to charge more for a first class seat. So I'm curious where your head is on what you'd be willing to pay for a first class upgrade.
Yeah, I think $50 an hour is a no brainer for me personally. Again, just the ability to get the laptop out and work and get something done is worth it, on top of the personal comfort of just stretching my legs out these days, which I just need to do more and more as I sit on these airplanes. Once you get up to $100 an hour, if I'm, that's getting tough for me. But I thought about it this morning when we were boarding our flight from Orlando to Atlanta. The flight across from us was the Delta flight from Orlando to Seattle. And I was like, oh man, what's that? That's gotta be a 6-hour flight.
Probably. Yeah.
Well on board, including, boarding and deplaning. You're on the plane for over 6 hours. I'm like, what am I paying, for first class upgrade on that? If they put that, like they put $500 in front of me, am I doing 6 hours up front on that flight instead of in the back? Like, probably. But, the two main points I took from this are, Gary says 15 years ago, he was batting 100% and getting first class upgrades. I remember executive platinum out of DCA 2016, 17, 18. I was almost at 100%.
Yeah.
These days, just not the case, man. And everybody knows here in Atlanta, like, not even a shot for me as a platinum member on Delta. I don't even consider first class upgrades as a part of elite status benefits. And Delta does a fantastic job selling these things in the app that people are just scooping them up.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, some of these offers that I see people take, which I assume they do, because, I go to sleep and there's 3 seats open and there's an offer, and I wake up and the 3 are gone. Like, they didn't clear 3 people off the upgrade list. 3 people bought the seats. Orlando to Atlanta is routinely like $300 for 55 minutes in the air. And people are scooping these things up, man. Like, I guess I just can't see spending that much money for, something like that. But I guess people are taking advantage of it. So first class happens. It's a nice surprise for me, but not even in the, not even in my, I used to like pick flights by like, from out of, especially at DCA or LaGuardia, which flight's going to have the best shot of a timing of an upgrade.
Right.
Right. What's how many seats are open right now at the time of buying? Dude, I don't even look anymore. Not even in the, much more concerned about what's the on-time flight history of this flight and is there an aisle seat. That's it.
Yes.
Not even strategizing for first class upgrades whatsoever in domestic flying anymore.
No, on-time percent is a huge part of it. It's like why I keep toying back and forth. I get an extra hour of time in Vegas when I take the American flight from Vegas to O'Hare late at night, but that flight's on-time percentage is really poor. And so it's this double-edged sword of I get an extra hour with my team, but then I'm also losing an extra half an hour to 45 minutes of sleep on top of the extra hour that I lost already in taking the later flight. And It gets tougher. But from a dollars and cents standpoint, I would say I think I'm firmly like I don't think I really quantified it around a number until I read Gary's article, but I think I'm firmly in the $75 an hour camp on call it anything, Dulles O'Hare or longer. That's 600 miles, I guess. So probably it's almost exactly the same as Dulles Atlanta would be my guess. So Dulles Atlanta, Dulles O'Hare or longer, I'm going to pay $75 an hour. And for me, it's like, well, you're going to throw out the first 30 minutes of any flight because you're really not getting a whole lot of like productive time right when you take off. So like I'm probably paying closer to $100 an hour on a 2-hour flight because with takeoff time and then hey, you got to put the laptop away 30 minutes prior to landing sort of stuff. On longer flights where you're really getting like call it, Dulles to Vegas where I can get a solid 4 hours of work, 100% $75 an hour for that sort of productivity all day, every day.
Well, let's hope that those kinds of reasonable offers continue to show up from time to time. Otherwise, I will be in the back of the bus.
Yeah, I bet they show up more often this year, but it's still gonna be hit or miss because as they hold some planes back, retire a few, stuff like that, they're gonna control capacity, and there's still a reasonable amount of interest for people buying first class. I see the same thing you see where you go to sleep with 3 seats available, you wake up the next day, nobody cleared, and all the seats are gone. So they're still offering numbers to someone that they find appealing, whether that's a connecting passenger from Europe or Asia or whatever, or just somebody who flies once or twice a year and doesn't want to sit and coach. They've found the right way to tweak the algorithms. Last story real quick, just because it's very topical for you right now, and then we both got to start packing. That night that you got diverted from Atlanta because of storms, Gary from View for the Wing wrote another article about some people that had a much rougher time of it than you did. These were international flights coming from Mexico, couldn't get into Atlanta. They ended up parking elsewhere in Alabama, and because there weren't customs officials available, they were kept on the plane overnight.
Yeah, Delta Flight 599 and Delta Flight 1828 landed at 10:20 p.m. at Montgomery and then 10:30 p.m. at Montgomery, and they were on board until 5:15 a.m. and 5:23 a.m. with Biscoff cookies and water. Now, that is because Montgomery, airport code MGM, very, very small place, does not have any customs and borders or anything like that. They couldn't let people off the plane since they could not go through customs. I think, the weather that night was really bad. There was really nowhere to go in the Southeast. And, the pilot shared with us that there were 40 planes diverted to outstations.
Yeah.
But I just think the crew on board and, the dispatchers that are tracking these things got to do a better job here. You can get them to New Orleans somewhere. You can even get them back to Texas. I mean, you can get them somewhere in Florida. You can't stick them knowing that the weather's like that weather didn't come out of nowhere. Like that was not a summer pop up. That was a thing that was well known.
Yeah.
They really let these people down. And for the elderly people, for the people with kids or babies on here, man, like I just cannot imagine a worse situation there. So when I think about how long that night was for me, thank God I was not, sitting. I think these were like 737s too, man. It's not like there was anywhere to get up and go, and I'm sure they were full.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just, eventually they were let off early in the morning to a little secure area. But again, Montgomery's tiny. So like there's not even, a space to go. This is why I always, I bring protein bars and food. And I travel with an empty water bottle through security. And before I get on board every time, I fill up my water bottle with water and electrolyte powder because you just do not know where you're going to get stuck. And even when I got stuck in Nashville and diverted, those protein bars and that electrolyte, saved me for just, what was a 4-hour ordeal. But these poor people, man, I think I read that Delta had refunded their flights and maybe offered them some sky miles out on this. Airline has apologized that they've fallen short of their customer service expectations and reports having offered refunds. But, again, the dispatchers and the crew on board has got to see this thing going, formulating ahead of time and do better this. But, oh, man. So remember, folks, if you're traveling, you have some snacks and some water in that bag and obviously any medicine that you need in case you're stuck overnight. Like, whew, brutal, man. I feel hard. Heart goes out for those people. And again, it has poor flight attendants in the back who are stuck just like these folks are, due to nothing on their own. But man, that is rough.
Yep. No, absolutely. Got to make sure you're proactive. Take care of yourself. Don't be like Ed and pay $20 for a diaper in a Miami airport terminal when you run out of diapers during diversion. But we want to end the show this week on a happy note, Mr. Kerr. I'll have Jeremiah put the picture up on the screen. Hopefully we can crop out the very hairy calf and thigh muscle in the picture of yours. But looks like you got a little package in the mail. I just want to say the package wasn't from me, but I want to read the note. Looks like you got a box of Biscoff cookies, and it said, a gift for you. Mr. Kerr, are you feeling crummy? Get it? We wanted to ensure you can recreate your flight experience at the home, office, even in your car ride. So no matter where you are, you can remember Delta Cares from Delta Loyalty. I don't actually think the box of Biscoff cookies was from Delta, but I really do appreciate.
I don't think so.
I appreciate whichever listener or viewer sent you these box of cookies. Please raise your hand because you do need to be recognized by the teacher.
Yeah, Thomas and Mary very excited about getting a box of cookies, and they listened to that podcast episode. They thought was funny, even on the flight this morning with the Biscoff cookies being handed out. They're like, "Dad, there's a Biscoff cookie." I was like, "I don't want any of these Biscoff cookies. I don't." Biscoff cookies and sun chips this morning once again, and I was like, I'm good. I'm good on that. But yes, thank you, reader, for that lovely box that Mrs. Kerr actually ripped open because I know she doesn't actually read whose name is on packages that show up because she assumes that the 1,800 Amazon packages are for her, not for me. So she was like, "I actually think this is for you. What is this?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, let me see."
For just a second, I thought you said that Mrs. Kerr ripped open the box of Biscoff cookies.
Nope,
I was gonna be like, they don't have beets in them, so I'm not really sure what she's after.
She certainly didn't do that. No.
All right. Well, I've got Atlanta. I've got as Flighty has informed me, I've got a relaxing 19-hour layover in Atlanta, and then back to Alexandria for meetings, Vegas, and then brief stop in Chicago to sleep for a few hours, and then home. That's my week. What's your week looking like?
Unfortunately, not Atlanta when you're flying to Atlanta. I'm headed to Minnesota tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
Yeah. So it's been a long time since I've been to Minnesota. So checking out some new spots this week, which is actually great because it's not New York City. So I'm excited to be going anywhere new.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, lots of travel to finish recapping. Got to talk about Tokyo Disney Sea, some more fun stuff we did there, the Star Wars celebration, the craziness that was the Star Wars celebration, and a little bit more about our Japan trip. But Mr. Kerr, it's going to be another crazy week on the road for both of us. I wish you luck in your travels. I hope you can get packed in time for your next flight. I got to do some laundry real quick, empty the suitcase, and fill it back up for another fun-filled ride out there on the highway for both of us. Until we upload again, Mr. Kerr, we've got many miles to go.
What is this? Like, this is not the stuff I used to have to worry about, but now every day I find myself worrying about, what is this? I just like, why am I worried about this? I should not be worried about this. We should not be worried about this kind of stuff, but here we are. So